Hola amigos, and welcome back. It's that time of year again, the best time of year, the gift that keeps on giving. That's right, Scottish football. We are starting with the Viaplay Cup, but I'm sure a season of nonsense is ahead of us. We'll get right into it with Jenna and Paul. Hello and welcome back to Salmon's Pizzeria, another fun-filled show. This time we're avoiding the Euros, although our Spanish friends had some great fun at the weekend. We'll move on to all things Scottish football, and today I am joined by our Kilmarnock man himself, Paul. How are you, Paul?
I'm good, Alex. How's yourself?
I'm very good, thank you. And our steel woman, Jenna. How are things in Motherwell?
Fantastic as always.
Well, they're the only one of the three clubs that we support that are actually in action at the moment in the Viaplay Cup. But it's the Premier Sports Cup now, isn't it, actually? Yep, that's the one. Better get that right. So we will start with them because there are a few things both on and off the pitch to talk about. We'll start with on the pitch. How have you felt Stuart Kettlewell's managed the game so far? Jenna.
To be honest, the last two games that I've watched the Montrose game last night on TV, and then I was at the game on Saturday there. To be honest, I've been quite impressed. There was the rumours obviously about Bear leaving, it's came to fruition now, but I've been quite happy with the signings that he's made. He's getting youth players in the mix, and to be honest, a lot of them, you couldn't actually tell they were a youth player unless you knew it with the amount of skill that they've got. He's spoken quite highly of the youth team as well. I'm actually feeling quite positive. Give it another week and I'll be demanding that he gets sacked and all the players get let go, but as things stand, I'm actually feeling quite good about things for once.
Yeah, and Motherwell weren't too bad. Obviously, a penalty shootout extra point last night. Paul, they're probably a team that will be looking to push your Kilmarnock. Do you think stuff like a £1.4 million sale for Theo Bair is going to push them up that table?
I'm not sure. Looking at the games, but I mean, they're quite well covered. And they've lost Bear, which I wasn't sure about because obviously watching Kilmarnock up there last time they played, everyone went through Bear and it was like central to all the play. But I see they've signed like Zach Robinson and Philip Stuparevich, has it? Two strikers, but I think they've yet to score as yet. But I'm sure he'll be looking to push them out and get a few goals from them.
Yeah, and that's something which has kind of been the key part of your pre-season, Jenna, is there have been a lot of people in the doors. Obviously, losing a couple, Liam Kelly, now Theo Bair, a couple others as well, Blair Spittle. How do you think the new boys have come in? And is there any kind of standouts for you so far?
So far, no, just because it has only been the two games I've been able to catch from pre-season, if you want to still call it that as such. But overall, I have been quite happy with what I've seen so far. Robinson does look quite promising. To be fair, the last couple of goals that we have had in the Edinburgh City game all came from defenders, which is quite unusual, especially for Motherwell. It's not very often we score from set plays, but we had two headers go in, not going to complain. But overall, things are looking good. Moses, he did come in last season, but he had hardly any game time. So even though he's not a new signing, he's still new to watch, if that makes sense in a way. He's quite impressed me as well. So I'm hoping we can get a good forward line build because I don't know. I know Robinson's got the number 9 jersey now, but if you've watched Motherwell the past couple of seasons, jersey number means absolutely nothing in terms of who our first choice striker is. Same with goalkeepers. We brought in a young fella on loan. I can't mind if it was from West Ham or Aston Villa, to be honest. I know it's one of them. But we still haven't really came to the decision who our first choice keeper is. Young Oxford, he played the game last night. It was a new fella that was doing the Edinburgh City game. It's kind of worrying me that we don't have our first choice solidified yet, but I'm sure it'll work out. We've got a couple of games before the season starts. I'm not too worried about it for now.
Yeah, and somebody who all eyes will be on this season after a very, very impressive season last season is Lennon Miller, of course. How was he kind of started the season?
Oh, he's been brilliant so far. Honestly, if you didn't know that lad, he was only about 17 going 18, you would think he was about 25 with the amount of skill that boy has in his shoes. I think he's quite local as well. I could be wrong, but I know his dad obviously played in Scottish football and had a big role in that for years. He'll be pushing him as well. Honestly, he's an absolute pleasure to watch. I can't sing the boy's praises enough. He is one of the best players that we've got in that squad. And if I know there's rumours that Rangers are going in for him, they can have him, but fork out the money. I don't care how much Hampden is going to cost you at the end for the 3 weeks. I want the money.
Yeah, that's why I was going to try and stay away from that, because there is obviously the rumours, but Lennon Miller would cost a lot. And I suppose about kind of cost things around Motherwell, we'll just kick on. And Paul, I'm not sure how much you've kind of seen around the financial side of things. Of course, the American businessman, ex-Netflix CEO, came in to try and buy Motherwell, and from what I read, valued them as little as £4 million. Now selling Theo Bair already for 1.4 million. Probably if Lennon Miller was to go, it would definitely be another 7-figure fee. Do you think he's maybe looking a little bit sheepish now?
Probably. Well, must be at least 6 million now then, you would think. And I think he's just trying to get them in the cheap, to be honest. But
yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because we're kind of seeing this domination of American investors, and St. Johnstone have, of course, got their man. There's rumours of Inverness Cali getting out of their hole, which they've dug themselves into with a new American investor. And, of course, there's the kind of Bournemouth-Hibernian link as well. So that moves us quite nicely on to Hibs, who have been high-flying under David Gray. And, 10 goals in their first 2 games. They conceded one last night to Queen's Park, but a 5-0 win against Elgin, and then that 5-1 win last night. How impressed have you been with them so far, Paul?
Oh, Hibs, I think they're looking really good. David Gray's come in, obviously, he's an ex-player, as you well know. And also, he's been like in and out caretaker manager as well recently. So he obviously knows the workings of the club and knows how to make it work. And it seems to me he's got them back playing, like some good wing play that they used to play with. So he's trying to get them back to their roots that way, I think. But they've had a couple of good results recently in the Premier Sports Cup.
Yeah, of course. And Jenna, something that he's actually changed since coming in was which side they have the home dugout on. And he said it's because he thinks that's the side that they come in on. That's the side that they warm up on, they train on. So he wants that to be classed as almost the home side. Do you think that's a kind of maybe a mental decision that will work, or is this just stuff that doesn't really matter?
To be honest, I don't think it really matters much personally. Graham Alexander did quite a similar thing. He changed the home and away dugouts at Fir Park. His reason was a bit different from that. He said he liked to be closer to the linesman and the ref to try get in their ear a bit, which you could argue maybe that works better than the whole mentality of always training there. You might as well play that. To be honest, I don't think it makes a difference, but each their own. Everyone's got their own style. I can see the argument for it. It does kind of make the most sense, but in the grand scheme of things, with your dugouts, it's not going to really determine if you win a game or not, let's be honest.
Hibs are probably another team who had a lackluster season last season and will definitely be trying to push for a top 6 finish, a European finish this season, to try and catch up with their not-so-friendly neighbours. But do you think that's something that's possible with the current squad and current manager, or do you think they're still kind of going through this turmoil of change, Paul?
I think it'll be interesting to see, because I think with the new manager bounce, and obviously they've got players like Martin Boyle scored 3 in the last 2 games. He's a fan's favourite. And David Gray's a fan's favourite as well. So they'll be hoping that they can obviously integrate with the fans and get the bounce and get them back up the table again.
Yeah, of course. And like you say, obviously Martin Boyle scored 3. I think Dylan Venti got a hat-trick in the first game. A lot of these players aren't new. There are some new faces. But is it a kind of matter of getting the right faces in the door rather than many, Jenna?
Oh, definitely. I've always said quantity over quality. We've seen that in Motherwell. We went on a signing spree and not a single player was actually good enough for us, to be honest. If you can get that quality through the door, it doesn't matter how many signings it is. If they need 3 good players and they sign 3 good players, that should be what matters. Might they want 6? Obviously, you do. But realistically, especially with the amount of change and turmoil as we've spoken about already, they need stability. And I think if they go for quality more than quantity, it should hopefully ease that. And if there's anything that needs fixed, that's what January's for. It's not as if they have to commit and only make decisions now. They've got a bit of time.
Of course. Yeah, okay. Well, we will stick with the Premiership and a team who had a really good season last season, a team who were probably punching above their weight as the newly promoted side, but Dundee don't seem to be slowing down. A 7-1 win against Bonnyrigg Rose and then a 2-0 win last night against Arbroath. Paul, just how far can they go this season?
I think it'll be difficult for them to build on what they did last season. Obviously, there'll be high expectations from their fans, but watching the games, I mean, the young boy is at Lyle Cameron. He's pushed on, and I think he's looking to improve in some good form from the last couple of seasons. He looks really creative, just pulling the strings in midfield. And then they've got Curtis Main up front. He scored a hat trick against Bonnyrigg, and he'll be trying to keep out Simon Murray, who's another fan's favourite for Dundee.
Yeah, coincidentally, I believe that was actually Curtis Main's first 3 goals for the club. And yeah, of course, Simon Murray has signed from Ross County, one that the Dingwall club were quite disappointed about. But yeah, Dundee, Jenna, are a team that you know all about, and they kept you out of the top 6 last season. They'll obviously be looking to do the same this season, if not pushing on. They've got a European campaign to deal with as well. But is this the kind of competition that teams like Dundee will go, we want to get quite far in this, especially having to take part in the group stage, which is almost a glorified preseason in ways, but it shows you a hell of a lot of what you need to know about your team before the Premiership season begins.
No, definitely. Although it is competitive, it is kind of looked upon as the official pre-season competitive games, if that kind of makes sense. This is, but with that, I've kind of touched on it with Motherwell. We haven't figured out our first choice keeper, first choice striker. We're chopping and changing things. It's a good opportunity because yeah, it's still competitive, but it does allow you that little bit of breathing space. If you drop points in a group stage, yeah, it's inconvenient, and you obviously get some absolute shock results like the Airdrie Screwbride one, things like that. It does make things look really bad, but you'd rather have that in a cup game than in the league, because league harms you in the long run. A cup run, you pick yourself up, you go again for a Scottish Cup. It's easier to move past the cup game than it is from dramatic league failure, I think, personally.
Yeah, and so do you think, Dundee will kind of have their eyes on a certain target, maybe get out of the group stage, or do you think they'll be looking a little bit further, go, well, why don't we see if we can get to Hampden this season?
Well, getting out of the group stage should just be the absolute bare minimum for a team like Dundee, especially with how well they did last season. That has to be the minimum, not the goal. If they can push on and go to Hampden, fair enough. But I think realistically they should be pushing for at least the quarterfinals based on last season's performances.
Fair enough. We will stay in Dundee, and Jenna mentioned a shock result for Airdrieonians winning 8-0. A shock result in terms of who would have seen this coming? Well, maybe it could have been seen coming because Falkirk were on fire last season and they have shown no signs of slowing down, but Dundee United and Jim Goodwin well and truly beaten by them. They've bounced back since, Paul, with a 3-0 win against Stenhousemuir, but is Jim Goodwin going to keep Dundee United in the Premiership this season? Because he has had a lot of experience in the top division, and it's been a bit of here and there.
I mean, looking at that game, especially the other night against Stenhousemuir, I mean, it looks as if he's brought in a couple of good signings there. The boy from St Mirren, Ryan Strain, he's the right wing back. And it might have taken them a bit of time just to kind of bed into the team in the first game, possibly. So he's played 17 games with St Mirren last season, and they'll be hoping that he can bring some form up the right hand side for them in the SPL this season.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, then Falkirk, if we try and turn it to the positives for Falkirk, they've kind of gone the other way. They beat Dundee United 2-0 and then lost to Ayr United 1-0. But do you think, Jenna, there'll be a team that are going, well, we went unbeaten last season. The expectation shouldn't be let's hang around in this division. Why don't we go for the top flight?
Oh, definitely. That's something I do quite like about Championship football here, is that it is a league that genuinely any team can win. And I think that's quite inspiring to watch, especially since the Premiership, let's be honest, it's always going to be between two teams in this division. So it is nice to see things chop and change. There's no reason why Falkirk can't push ahead and try and come right up to the Premiership again. However, there are quite a lot of good teams in there, and I think it will be tough.
Yeah, Ayr United, a team you know all too well, Paul. They've had a decent pre-season, some may say. But yeah, Scott Brown is obviously going to be looking for some positives with that team. How far do you think he can take them? Are they another team that's maybe looking for stability, or is it about, you know what, why don't we have a real good go at this and maybe get ourselves into the Premiership?
Well, they had a player from Dundee United in loan last season, Logan Chalmers, who scored a good number of goals for them. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get players that has calibre that will replace him. But I mean, he's got the team playing really well just now, obviously. So he'll be wanting just to keep that together and mount a title challenge, you'd think.
Yeah, and that is, like you said, Jenna, a kind of division that anybody can win. But we will move back to the top flight. Obviously, Jimmy Taylor. If we move on quickly and touch on the Aberdeen team, Jimmy Taylor has only had one competitive game. They won it in pretty easy fashion. Aberdeen know that it has to be better than last season. Is Jimmy Taylor a kind of a target now, because you know he could be the man that everybody has latched onto now and is going, we have to do something with this guy? Or do you think he's kind of got it easy because the expectations of last season, and it will be a kind of slow burner, a slow builder, slowly, gradually get back to fighting for that third place with Hearts and probably Hibs?
It's quite hard to tell, to be honest, because as you said, like, last season was so chaotic for Aberdeen. But to be honest, it wasn't just last season it was a problem. I know the season before that they ended up playing in Europe, but again, results still were quite topsy-turvy. The season before that as well wasn't the greatest when they eventually let go of Derek McInnes. I suppose that worked out in your favour, Paul, but for Aberdeen, not so much. Like, I think if they go for the slow burner approach, it makes the most sense. But I think the fans will get frustrated by that. And it does come to a point of, right, something has to give. I don't know if they will be as patient just because how much has happened and how much has went wrong in the past couple of seasons. But I think they do need to give the guy a proper chance. Give him a season. Let's see how it plays out. And if it doesn't work out, you can add it to the long list of failures for Aberdeen recently. If it does work out, then no harm, no foul. They've given the chance. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, Paul, it's an interesting one because, as Jenna mentioned, Aberdeen's last three managers have all been Scottish. Barry Robson's had a couple of goes at it. Well, not all Scottish, sorry, but all Scottish football orientated, with Jim Goodwin in there. And then Derek McInnes. And all these guys have heavily been involved in and around Scottish football. But Jimmy Taylor is a new face to this game. You know, he has a decent bit of experience over in Sweden with Häcken. But this is a new playground to him. And how do you kind of see that going for him and that Aberdeen side? Because as Jenna says, there probably isn't a heap of patience in the Granite City.
No, I can see them doing better than they did last season. Well, it wouldn't take much probably, but I think looking at their game against Queen of the South, they looked on the front foot for most of the game. Some good wing play. McGrath and Morris setting up the boys at. Is it Sokla?
Yeah, it's Sokla.
He's their new centre forward, and I think they'll probably be needing him because it looks as if, by all accounts, Bologna is going to come in and take me off scary. So the fact that he scored 2 in that game against Queen of the South, you know, the fans will be happy with that win. Yeah,
I mean, Esther Sokla came in last summer on a free, and he wasn't really kind of a mainstay in that Aberdeen side, but there is a bit of room now for him, and especially could be even more room if Bohan Miovski was to move on. It looks like Duke will be moving on. He's gone AWOL. So there's a bit of a situation to sort out squad-wise, Jenna. Do you think this is one that is going to be sorted by the start of the season, or is going to be a bit of a rebuild come even January?
I think it's going to have to be a bit of a rebuild. It is kind of quite neat to get things sorted by the start of the season, at the start of August. Don't get me wrong, if they're able to pull it off, fair enough, but I think they do need to be smart about it. They've got enough issues going on in terms of management, things like that. Obviously, signings are important, But I think they need to strike that balance, get at least 2 or 3 more players through the front door. If they're able to replace Mavoski and Duke, then out, brilliant. If not, that has to be the priority overall for January, and that's it. The absolute latest is January. Get someone at the door. But again, just like how we were saying, like Dundee and Hibs, go for quality over quantity, because you have to make sure you're getting it right. You can sign 1 million players, doesn't mean they're going to be any good.
Yeah, we'll touch on another rebuild, a different kind of rebuild. I don't want to talk about it too much because I'm sure we could probably talk about it all day. But, of course, the redevelopment of the Copeland stand at Ibrox means that Rangers will be playing their first League and Champions League qualifiers, the first League games and Champions League qualifiers at Hampden. This competition ends up there. It's a bit of a mess, isn't it? I mean, Jenna, you'll no doubt maybe be at Hampden because Motherwell are one of the teams that will be playing there. So how much of a kind of, I don't want to say upset, but, how much of a change is this, not only for Rangers, but for the other teams in the league that then have to be affected by this?
To be honest, the way I'm looking at it is I'm just trying to see the light in this situation. I'm just glad it's not my team that's impacted, or else I would be absolutely fuming about it. I normally try and avoid going to Ibrox or Parkhead just because I refuse to pay that amount of money to watch us get beat. We are playing at Hampden, and I'm dying to go just so I can say I've seen Mull play at Hampden this season at least once, regardless of how the cup games go. But to be honest, I'm not that bothered about it. If I was a Rangers fan, I'd be absolutely raging, but I don't think it should make much of a difference what ground you play in, to be honest. It's still the same team, still the same players you're going to be against. You should make the most of it regardless of where it's getting played.
Yeah, and Paul, it's not the first team to have had to relocate in Scottish football, but it is an absolute catastrophe in ways, and Rangers would have wanted to have Ibrox ready because that crowd is a big backing. And do you think Hampden, the kind of bowl effect as well of Hampden, do you think that will take away, because they'll take away from the atmosphere? Because no doubt it will be the same fans through the doors, but they don't want to sit in those seats week in, week out. They want to be in their season ticket seats at Ibrox.
Historically, the Rangers fans don't really enjoy going to Hampden, I don't think, do they? But no, I think if they get the same numbers that they get in through Ibrox, you just be hoping that everyone goes and backs them there. I'm pretty sure that you'll get the same noise levels.
Yeah, and just to point out, we have had a few good days there too. So, swiftly moving on to another team who isn't in action but has had a big deal. Obviously, Alex Cochrane has left Hearts. He's gone to Birmingham. A reported fee of around 1.3 million. I know, Jenna, not quite the fee of Theo Bair, but that's another big deal for Scottish football clubs. And do you think that means that we need to be taken a little bit more serious in this transfer window, Jenna?
Oh no, definitely. I've said for years that it feels as though sometimes Scottish Premier League players do get undervalued. I mean, when you look at signings like obviously Bair, every time I read an article about it, it's given a new figure. At one point it was 1.4 million, then it was 1.6, then something at 1.9. Don't know if anyone knows how much he actually went for, but it was more than $1 million. That's all that matters. Likes of David Turnbull, that was a couple of years back now. He went to Celtic for 3.2. Obviously Cochrane's went down to Birmingham for 1.4. Those are all high signings. James Scott, he left us to go to Hull. He was about 1 point something million as well. If we can actually get a good PR campaign out about our players, show them both on TV through Sky Sports, things like that, as well as even the social media channels. One of the former media staff from Hull came out and said that it's most likely the amount of promotion that we were doing about Theo Bair, trying to get people to look at him, to try to see if we can get back in the Canada squad, try to see if we can get eyes on him, see things like that. It helps show the value in our players. Hearts have probably done the same for him, as well as other players like Shankland. They'll be pushing flat to try to see if they can get any decent money for them. I say crack on. If you treat your players as both obviously as a player, but as well as an investment, you'll see the returns one way or another, either great results or great financial results.
Okay, well, we'll turn it back to Premier Sports Cup, and let's just go through the groups then. We've obviously talked about Aberdeen and Queen of the South's results. The one that you briefly mentioned, Jenna, Airdrieonians absolutely hammered East Kilbride in true dramatic fashion. I think they went 1-0 up in the first minute. It finished 8-0. and it was probably 8 going on 16. It's a hard one for East Kilbride to take. Obviously, they missed out on promotion into the pyramid at the end of last season. But how much of an impact, Paul, does that take on those players? Because it's not nice getting beat. I know it's somebody above your level, but it's definitely not nice getting thrashed.
I know. Well, they've got Aberdeen on Saturday, so who are high flying at the minute. So it's going to be difficult for Mick Kennedy to get his players back up in confidence for that game after getting beat 8-0.
Yeah, and just to stick with you, Paul, Mick Kennedy is a man who has previously said that teams like St Johnstone, Ross County, etc., shouldn't go to Ibrox and Parkhead and just try and, hold out for a draw. They should go and try and play football. Do you think that's kind of come to bite him a little bit?
Possibly. I think we'll see Saturday, because obviously the last time he played Aberdeen, he got a good result. So we need to see if he can make it 2 in a row.
Yeah, Mick Kennedy did. Yeah, he was manager of Darvel, didn't when that brilliant result came for them in the Scottish Cup. Okay, well, we'll move on from Group A. The other team in there, Dumbarton, have picked up 1 point. They lost on penalties to East Kilbride in the first game after a 1-0 draw. If we move on to Group B, we've obviously touched on both Dundee United and Falkirk, as well as Ayr. Stenhousemuir, last season's League 2 winners, started with a 4-0 win against Highland League Buckie Thistle before, as we said, a 3-0 loss to Dundee United. League 1 was a bit of a weird one last season, Jenna, and I'm not sure how much you followed it, but do you think they waited forever for that, eventually getting that League 2 trophy as well? They just couldn't seem to get over the line. Do you think for them it's about staying in League 1 this season? Because a lot of teams have come up, Stirling Albion and Annan Athletic, and struggled in that division. So do they need to just kind of find a bit of stability just now?
I would say so, yes. To be honest, a lot of people underestimate the jump between League 2 to League 1 as well as League 1 up into the Championship. Those are quite hard divisions. People do tend to overlook them. They are going to have to try dig in deep and try to stay up. If they can get within the top 5 this season, they'll be more than happy with that. But I think they have to focus on staying and sustaining being in League 1 before they try to think long term.
Yeah, fair enough. And there's not much more to probably mention in Group C. Obviously, Hibs beating Queen's Park and Elgin, Kelty Hearts and Peterhead at the bottom of that group. But if we go on to Group D, we have, of course, mentioned Dundee and the brilliant fashion they've started in. But Annan Athletic have picked up 5 points from their first 2 games. They beat Inverness 1-0 and then drew with Bonnie Rig Rose 2-2, but beat them on penalties. Paul, a pretty dire season for them last season, but they managed to stay in League 1. Do you think they'll be able to do the same again, or are they going to be towards the bottom of that division? I
think they'll probably be fighting relegation again. It's difficult for teams like that, with budgets like they've got, to sustain themselves in that league, so in those kind of leagues. So I think they'll be fighting relegation again. I hope they prove me wrong, but I do think that.
Yeah, fair enough. And staying with you, Paul, and staying with Group D, Inverness, they've only played that 1 game, which they lost to Annan Athletic, but they are in an absolute mess at the moment. They went to play local Highland League side Brora Rangers and got an absolute thumping in pre-season. There's a lot of young boys who are it is a very young squad. There's a few injuries already cropping up. Ferguson has already said that he probably can't bring any more players in unless there is investment. There are the rumours. This season, Cali Thistle were probably picked to be one of the favourites to go back up. But having a look at the situation, should they just be focused about not going back down again?
I think maybe focus mid-table and see where it goes from there. Maybe even Ferguson will bring out the boots again. You never know.
Yeah, Jenna.
They've made a signing. They made Dan Mackay. They signed him back from Hibernian as well. So he's a good player, good winger. So maybe he'll make an impact on.
Yeah, of course. And Jenna, Cali are in a little bit of trouble. But one thing the kind of fans can definitely agree on is that they don't really want to see Duncan Ferguson for too much longer. The club probably aren't in a position where they can sack him. So Is it the decision that the fans now need to go, right, let's back him and see where we can get, or should they stay with this protest until something's done?
To be honest, if I was them, I'd be absolutely fuming about the full state of how the club's been run the past couple of months. It has been kind of well documented issues, potentially administration, the whole thing with trying to ground share with Kelly Harts for training or something like that. Try to actually take Inverness out of Inverness Cali, it kind of defeats the purpose. That'd be like Glasgow Rangers playing in Dundee. Like, it makes no sense. The whole thing is just a pure disaster. And you know what, if they still want to protest Duncan Ferguson, I really don't blame them, but to be honest, I don't even think it's really his fault, the issues with the club. I think it does lie higher up and he's just the one getting the brunt of it.
Yeah, fair enough. Paul, we'll move on to Group E. No Premiership clubs in this one. Livingston are, though, and they will be hoping to get back up. They had a tough season last season. David Martindale couldn't really stop them from going down because it was just disappointment after disappointment. They started with a 2-0 win against Forfar. They've added a few new faces. They'll be hoping to be at the top of that championship table come the end of the season. Do you think they have what it takes?
That'll be interesting to see, but as we said earlier, like a Partick Thistle, A United, Morton, there's a lot of good teams in that championship. It's not going to be easy for them to get to the top of the league.
Of course, yeah. And like I said, Forfar obviously losing to Livingston, but they did run out 2-0 winners against Dunfermline. So another team in the championship, Dunfermline, they'll be hoping for a kind of maybe better season than last season, maybe pushing for promotion. Jenna, is that something that they're going to get, or do you think last season was probably as good as it was going to get for them?
I don't know about them going up this season just because, again, as Paul was saying, you've got teams like Morton, Partick Thistle that will be absolutely pushing for it. They just narrowly missed it the past 2 seasons in a row. They've done well, they do have potential, but I think realistically speaking, I can see Dunfermline. I don't think they'll struggle, but I don't see them going up. I think they'll just be a bit mid-table.
Yeah, fair enough. Group F then is topped by East Fife. East Fife beat Morton. I think it was 3-0, and their social media admin seemed to have a hell of a lot of fun. They lost on penalties to Alloa in the second game, but they do lead the way. They're a team that will be hoping for something this season anyways in League Two. Do you think they're going to get anything out of it, Paul? Do you think they'll be one of the teams kind of there or thereabouts? I mean, they finished 5th last season. They'll probably be hoping to push at least playoffs.
Definitely. Just going back to the championship as well. I mean, Wraith Rovers have signed a couple of good players. Like they've signed Stevenson and Hanlon from Hibs as well. So yeah, they'll be another club that'll be looking to push up into the top of the league. But I think East Fife, I think they'll do well this season, definitely. And obviously their recent performances have shown that.
Yeah, we'll stick with that group. St Johnstone, who we mentioned briefly with the takeover stuff. They beat Brechin 2-1. By no means is that an outstanding result. Brechin, obviously, of the Highland League now. But Jenna, do you think St Johnstone are going to be good enough to stay up this season? Because there are a lot of question marks. The squad is thin, to say the least. And they probably should be a little bit worried about the state of affairs unless a few new faces are coming in the door.
I'm not going to lie, I don't feel very hopeful for St Johnstone's chances. If this takeover goes well in their favour, it might just save them, depending on how much this American guy's willing to invest in the club. But as things stand with the information that we've got now, I'm not feeling hopeful for them. I hope they prove me wrong. I don't mind St Johnstone. I think Craig Levine is one of my favourite personalities in Scottish football, to be honest. Love having him around, but I don't feel hopeful for them. I really don't.
Yeah, okay. And Paul, let's just skip Group G. There's not really too much going on there. Obviously, we talked about Motherwell. Partick Thistle are in there. They've won their only game. If we go to Group H, as you mentioned just a minute ago, Wraith Rovers, who have started really well. A 3-0 win away at Stirling and then a 2-1 win against Stranraer. They're going to be wanting to push right to the very top of that table. They pushed as hard as they could last season, but came just short. This season, they're going to be hoping for a little bit more. They've got Ross County at the weekend. Do you think that's a kind of a good judgment on where they are in terms of their journey?
I think obviously with the Premier Sports games, it is hard to kind of judge because a lot of players aren't at full match fitness, and managers might be kind of playing about with starting 11s, etc. Formations, but I think it'll be a good grounding for them going into that game just to see how they can go up against them and if the fitness levels match them, all that kind of stuff. But like Sir Lewis Stevenson, he's became considered probably a veteran now. So if we've got a few players like that and to add to experience to the team that nearly made it last season, well, you never know for them.
Yeah, that's it. And Jenna, Ross County were the team that kept them down. I think it was 6-1 on aggregate. It was a dominating display from them as opposed to the previous year against Partick Thistle. They've started with a 3-1 win against Stranraer. Do you think Ross County are going to be a bit more hopeful than last season? I mean, they've lost Simon Murray. They really, really were pushed for a bit of luck at the end of last season and came away maybe even more fortunate because of the state of things at Livingston. They're maybe going to be there or thereabouts at the bottom again, aren't they? Because the top division seems to be quite hard to call at the moment. Yeah,
like we can kind of call most of the top. You can always tell one or two is going to be Celtic or Rangers. Third, you can kind of place a safe bet. Nowadays, it's most likely going to be Hearts. That 4th to 8th, complete absolute mess. It could be absolutely anyone. But I'm calling it now. I can see 12 being St Johnstone, 11 being Ross County.
You've got Dundee United staying up with Jim Goodwin, or do you think he's going to get the sack?
Maybe put Ross County 10, United 11 because I forgot about them for a minute there.
Yeah, no, it's not too difficult to do. What about you, Paul? Just take it away from the cup at the moment, and who do you see going down this season?
Difficult one, isn't it? I mean, St Johnstone have been scraping past for the last wee while, haven't they? So, probably I would say them at the bottom. I think Dundee United will stay a wee bit further up, to be honest. Maybe 7th, 8th.
Dundee United the past couple of seasons come up, come down. Same with Dundee, they just can't seem to decide if they want to be Premiership teams or if they want to stay in the Championship.
Yeah, a team in that Group H as well, and I actually don't even want to mention their football, but the kit that Hamilton have just released it's just a disaster. It's probably one of the worst home kits I've ever seen for a club. Jenna, I mean, you probably look at every Hamilton kit with disgust, but just how bad is this one if you've seen it?
Well, I mean, put it this way, I've only ever seen one Hamilton strip out in public that wasn't when I was working at Douglas Park doing press stuff, and I was sick 10 minutes late. I'm not saying that's linked, however, bit of a strange coincidence. No, this one, it was just strange. I've never even heard the manufacturer. I was reading fan forums about it last night, just having a nosy, trying to get a reminder as to why I'm proud to be a Mull fan and not from the other side of Lanarkshire. But no, petty digs aside, look, it's just not pretty and nice at all. I tried to put the whole bias aside, but I just can't think of anything nice to say about the badges. A really strange shade of gold that doesn't match with anything else. There's like that kind of weird, like zigzaggy way across like the red and white bits. To be honest, what it reminded me, like, like a kid's Halloween costume for like witches and stuff like that. It's like kind of like the weird cutouts at the sleeve. It's kind of like that pattern around it. But it's just, whoever's made that, they've had a howler. I'm sorry, but they have had an absolute howler.
Yeah, Paul, it probably doesn't help that it's 150th anniversary kit, so it's one that should be going down in history, but it will be for the wrong reasons. Have you seen the kit, and if so, what do you think?
I haven't seen it yet. No, we're going to have a look now.
It's a sight for sore eyes, Paul. You're going to love it.
My team have had a lot of bad kits in like maybe the last 20 years or so. So I can't really say much, to be honest.
Highlight Kilmarnock kit for me was when your training kit was also Ayr United's away kit. That was an absolute amazing decision from someone at Macron.
I know, very clever.
Yeah, well, let's touch on Killie a little bit. We've touched on the other Euro teams, so let's touch on Killie. You've got some European preparations underway, Paul, and you'll be looking forward to these games against Cercle Bruges. A tough tie, but probably one of the easier ones you could have asked for from that draw. Do you think this is going to be another one of those special seasons with Derek McInnes, or is it going to be a bit more of a European struggle as we've seen in the past in Ayrshire?
Well, going in the last trip to Europe, I'm probably going to have to sit in the fence for that one.
Yeah, we never got very far. Was it Wales, and that was it? So
we got to Wales. Well, I went to Belgrade, but it wasn't to see Kilmarnock, unfortunately.
An away day's an away day. Think of it that way.
That's it. But I don't know. It's going to be a hard one because he's brought in a couple of good players. Bruce. Is it Patterson?
Bruce Anderson.
Sorry, from Livingston. And he's scored a few goals already in pre-season. So if we can get players like that to form, you never know.
Fair enough. Oh, well, thank you, Jenna and Paul, for joining me today. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed the first episode of Scottish football being back. We've had enough of the Euros, although I'm sure you both enjoyed Sunday as much as I did. And hopefully there'll be a few more days to enjoy this season. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this show. And comment who you think is going to be the best team in the Premier Sports Cup group stages. Once again, thank you, Paul and Jenna, for joining me, and see you all next time.